It's one of the most confusing, most soul-crushing, most maddening experiences in the entire spectrum of human relationships. You know, deep in your gut, deep in your heart, that they love you. You feel it in those rare, intense moments of connection. You see it flash in their eyes when their guard is down, and yet they ignore you. Days, sometimes weeks of deafening silence, unanswered texts, calls that go straight to voicemail, a pervasive, gnawing feeling of being an afterthought, an option, not a cherished priority. It makes you question not just their love, but your own sanity, your own worth. But what if I told you that this agonizing, bewildering love-ignore dynamic isn't always, or even primarily, about a lack of love on their part? What if, paradoxically, tragically, it's sometimes precisely because their feelings for you are so intense, so overwhelming, so terrifyingly significant to them, that they resort to this baffling, hurtful behavior? There are deep, often dark, complex psychological reasons at play here, reasons that fly in the face of conventional romantic wisdom. Today, we are not just scratching the surface. We are dissecting this painful paradox down to its raw psychological core. I am revealing the core, often unspoken reasons why the one who loves you a lot might also cruelly ignore you a lot. Understanding this, truly internalizing this, won't just give you much-needed clarity. It can save you from immense, prolonged pain and help you see what's really going on beneath their perplexing silence. And be warned, because the second reason we'll explore is one that can silently, systematically destroy relationships from the inside out if it's not understood and addressed. This is vital. Now, our first, most natural, most human instinct when we are ignored by someone we deeply love, someone whose affection we crave, is to immediately assume the worst, to personalize it as a direct assault on our worth. They don't care about me anymore. They're deliberately playing cruel mind games to hurt me. They've found someone else, someone better. Their love was never real in the first place, and sometimes, tragically, those painful assumptions can hold a grain of truth, or even be the whole truth. We cannot ignore that possibility, however, far more often than you might believe, especially when genuine, deep love is or was undeniably present. The reasons for their withdrawal, for their agonizing silence, are far more complex, far more nuanced, and deeply rooted in their own internal struggles, their profound fears, their past traumas, their ingrained attachment patterns, or even their tragically misguided attempts to protect the relationship or themselves from perceived future pain. This isn't about making excuses for behavior that is undeniably hurtful. It absolutely is. But it is about understanding the hidden psychological drivers that can lead to this incredibly painful, confusing love-ignore dynamic, so that you can respond not just from a place of raw, reactive emotion, but from a position of informed wisdom, self-preservation, and perhaps even a path to resolution, if that's what's truly desired and possible. Reason number one, and this is a profound one, particularly for individuals who feel emotions with extraordinary depth or who have a history of enmeshment. Their love for you, their attraction to you, is so incredibly intense, so all-consuming, so overwhelming, that it triggers a primal, terrifying fear of engulfment, of losing their sense of self, of being completely consumed by the relationship. They pull away, they ignore you, not because they love you less, but paradoxically, because the sheer, unbridled force of their emotion scares the hell out of them. The deep psychology of this paradox, for certain individuals, especially those with anxious avoidant attachment styles, a history of controlling relationships, or past traumas involving a significant loss of identity within a partnership, the experience of falling deeply, passionately in love can feel less like a gentle embrace and more like being swept away by a powerful, uncontrollable tsunami. The intensity of their affection, their desire for you, creates an equal and opposite internal reaction, a desperate, almost panicked need to retreat, to create space, to pull back, to reclaim their individual sense of self before they feel completely overwhelmed, merged, or even annihilated by the intensity of the bond. Concrete manifestations, after an incredibly intimate, deeply connected weekend where emotions ran high and vulnerability was shared, they might suddenly become inexplicably distant, almost cold, for several days. Or immediately after they express a particularly vulnerable, loving sentiment, or you express one to them that clearly resonates, they might abruptly pull back, creating silence as if to recalibrate from the sheer emotional exposure and intensity. Crucial insight for you: their withdrawal in this scenario is not necessarily a reflection of their feelings for you, diminishing or being insincere. Rather, it's a direct reflection of their internal struggle with the overwhelming intensity of those very real feelings, pushing them harder for connection. Demanding explanations for their distance will almost certainly make them retreat further and faster. They are, in a misguided way, trying to manage feelings that feel too big, too powerful, too dangerous for them to handle without periodic escape. Their profound love for you creates an internal vulnerability, a perceived loss of control, that their psyche is ill-equipped to manage in a healthy, sustained way. Their absence, their ignoring you, becomes a desperate, albeit self-sabotaging maneuver to regain a semblance of control over emotions that feel too powerful, too consuming. They are running from the very thing their heart craves most, precisely because it craves it so much. Reason number 2, the tragically self-fulfilling prophecy that breaks so many hearts. Their love for you is so profound, so significant, so central to their being, that the mere thought of eventually losing you, of the relationship inevitably failing, or of you hurting them, is utterly unbearably terrifying. So they subconsciously, or sometimes even consciously, engage in preemptive self-protection by creating distance, by ignoring you, by effectively leaving before they can be left. The deep psychology of this paradox. This destructive pattern is often rooted in deep-seated insecurity, significant past relationship trauma like abandonment or betrayal, a core belief that they are unlovable or unworthy of lasting happiness, or a generally pessimistic worldview regarding relationships. If they've been deeply, devastatingly hurt before, or if they possess a core wound of unworthiness, the sheer intensity of their love for you can paradoxically trigger an immense, almost phobic fear of future pain. By ignoring you, by not allowing themselves to get too close or too invested, by keeping one emotional foot perpetually out the door, they are subconsciously or consciously attempting to lessen the anticipated blow of an often imagined future abandonment, rejection, or failure. Their twisted logic is, if I don't fully invest, if I don't let him see how much I truly care, it won't hurt as much when it inevitably ends. Concrete manifestations. They might actively sabotage the relationship just when things are getting really good, really deep, really intimate. They might pick seemingly irrational fights or find imaginary flaws in you, or the relationship to create necessary distance after moments of intense closeness or vulnerability. They might disappear for periods, testing if you'll still be there, if you'll chase, or perhaps trying to prove to themselves and you that they can survive without you, that they're not too dependent. Crucial insight for you. This is rarely, if ever, about you not being good enough, or them not loving you enough. In fact, it's often the opposite. It's about their internal demons, their unhealed wounds, their terror of repeating past pain. Their act of ignoring you is a deeply flawed, ultimately self-destructive defense mechanism against a future pain they perceive as inevitable, precisely because they value you and what you represent so incredibly highly. They are trying to control the narrative of their heartbreak before it even happens. Their intense love for you makes them perceive you as an incredibly valuable, almost irreplaceable part of their life, and therefore, the potential loss of you becomes a catastrophic existential threat. Their psyche, in a desperate and twisted attempt at self-preservation, might choose to control this anticipated, unbearable pain by initiating distance first, by pushing away the very thing they most desire, because the fear of that desire leading to ultimate devastation is too overwhelming. And reason number 3, where genuine, deep love gets tragically tangled with flawed strategy, ingrained pride, or a paralyzing fear of vulnerability in the relational dance. They are deliberately, consciously employing a misguided strategic withdrawal, believing it will somehow increase your attraction or give them leverage. Or they are simply paralyzed by a crippling fear of appearing too eager, too invested, or too vulnerable if they were to consistently initiate contact or openly engage with your expressions of interest. They love you deeply, but they mistakenly believe, often due to bad advice, past conditioning, or societal myths, that ignoring you will somehow make you want them more, or they are simply too proud or too terrified to openly show their hand and risk perceived emotional exposure. The deep psychology of this paradox: 2 main branches, the flawed, hard-to-get or interest elicitation tactic. Some individuals, unfortunately influenced by outdated dating advice, pop psychology, or perhaps their own past experiences, where they felt they were the chaser, genuinely believe that acting aloof, indifferent, or scarce, even towards someone they deeply care about and desire, will magically increase their own allure, make the other person chase harder, or prove the other person's level of interest. They love you, but they are playing a usually ineffective and often hurtful game, thinking it's a smart move. Crippling pride and the overwhelming fear of appearing needy or losing, especially if they feel they've been more emotionally invested in the past, in this relationship or previous ones, or if they've initiated contact more frequently and perceive an imbalance, their pride might kick in with a vengeance. Or, very commonly, similar to the fear of rejection we discussed earlier, they are terrified that consistent, enthusiastic engagement or initiation will make them look desperate, clingy, too available, or somehow less valuable in your eyes, particularly if their feelings for you are very strong and make them feel exposed and vulnerable. So they consciously force themselves to pull back, to ignore your bids for connection, to balance the scales in their mind, or to protect their fragile ego, even if it means agonizing silence. Concrete manifestations: they might deliberately, almost painfully, wait hours or even days to respond to your texts, even though you intuitively know they've seen them and are probably thinking about you. They might seem distant, cool, or overly casual immediately after you've shared a moment of deep affection or vulnerability, almost as if trying to regain the upper hand or prove they're not too invested. They might confide in their closest friends about how much they miss you, how deeply they care, but maintain a carefully constructed facade of cool indifference directly towards you. Crucial insight for you: this is often a clear sign of underlying emotional immaturity, deep-seated insecurity, or a tragic reliance on flawed relationship strategies, despite the genuine depth of their feelings. They are allowing fear, pride, or bad game-playing advice to dictate their actions, rather than allowing authentic connection and vulnerability to guide them. It's a painful form of self-sabotage, driven by a desperate desire to protect their ego or control the dynamic, precisely because their powerful feelings for you make them feel so exposed and out of control. Their profound love for you makes them feel intensely vulnerable. psychologically exposed. To counteract this perceived weakness, they might resort to these misguided power plays or defensive distancing maneuvers. They want you with an intensity that scares them, and their fear of vulnerability, of losing in the game of love, or of being perceived as the more interested party makes them act in ways that directly, tragically, contradict their heart's deepest desire, often creating the very distance and pain they so desperately dread. So, what does this profound, if often painful understanding mean for you, the one on the receiving end of this bewildering love-ignore paradox? It means several critical things. Don't always internalize their silence as a direct rejection of your worth or their love. Recognize that their withdrawal is often, far more often than you think, about their internal battles, their fears, their past wounds, their flawed strategies, not necessarily a true reflection of their feelings for you or your value as a person. Observe the overall pattern with dispassionate clarity. Amidst the periods of frustrating distance, are there still undeniable moments of intense connection, genuine vulnerability, and profound love leaking through? Is there a discernible pattern to the push-pull? Context is everything. Decide your own unshakable boundaries and non-negotiables. While understanding the psychological reasons behind their behavior can bring immense clarity and reduce personal suffering, it absolutely does not mean you have to endlessly tolerate behavior that consistently makes you feel bad, disrespected, anxious, or devalued. Your emotional well-being, your self-respect are paramount. You have the right to decide what you will and will not accept in a relationship, regardless of how much they might love you in their own conflicted way. Your power lies in this understanding. It allows you to choose your response from a place of wisdom, not just raw hurt. Why the one who loves you a lot might also cruelly ignore you a lot. The three core, often hidden, psychological drivers. 1. Overwhelming emotional intensity and the primal fear of engulfment. Their love feels too big, too consuming, too scary. 2. The crippling fear of inevitable hurt and preemptive self-protective sabotage. They love you so much, the thought of losing you is unbearable, so they push you away first. 3. Misguided strategic withdrawal, ingrained pride, and the paralyzing fear of vulnerability in pursuit. They love you, but flawed logic, ego, or terror makes them think ignoring you is safer or a power move. This love-ignore dynamic is truly one of the most painful, confusing labyrinths of the human heart. In the comments section below, I invite you to share your personal story, your hard-won wisdom. Have you ever experienced this agonizing paradox of being deeply loved yet frequently ignored? Which of these underlying reasons resonated most profoundly with your situation? Or what was your ultimate way of navigating it, finding peace, or making a decision? Let's shed much-needed light on this complex, often silently endured human experience. Your story could be a lifeline for someone else struggling in this maze. If this video, this deep psychological exploration, offered you even a sliver of desperately needed clarity, a moment of profound understanding, or a new perspective on a confusing relationship dynamic in your life or the life of someone you know, please share it. So many people are suffering in silence, trapped in this cycle, completely misunderstanding the hidden forces at play. For more deep, often uncomfortable, yet ultimately empowering insights into the intricate psychology of love, attraction, human connection, and the often paradoxical nature of our deepest emotions, make sure you have decisively unlocked that subscribe button and have activated that all-important notification bell. The deepest, most transformative truths are often the ones hidden in the shadows, the ones that challenge our conventional understanding. Seek understanding. Find your peace. Command your clarity.